Hey everybody, welcome to U7-L10 Power of the Church. I'm using a different screen recorder right now, so hopefully this works out well. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. It's very frustrating. Screencastify is the one I usually use, and it is really stupid nowadays. So here we are. So your job, you're going to watch the ed puzzle, you're going to answer the questions. Questions I ask you during the video today will be in blue text. Make sure you follow along on your study guide. Any important concept will be in red text. And of course, if you have questions, email us. We are here to help. All right, so learning target, compare and contrast the cultures in Eastern and Western Europe, including the role of Christianity. So what we learned before this. So we learned that the old Roman Empire split between the East and the West. So the East ended up to be the Byzantine Empire. The West was a mix of kingdoms, including the Franks, which is in kind of what modern day Germany is, France and England. And we also talked about how the Christian church in the West declared itself secular, meaning that the Pope is the dude that crowns the kings. All right, so here's a map again. You can see in the west, so like in modern day like Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, a little bit of like Poland area, Italy as well. That would be predominantly Catholic followers. And then here in the purple is you would have predominantly Orthodox followers. And again, this happened in about 1054. There's other religions mixed in here too as well, so it's not like just both these religions, because of course, like in the Middle East and North Africa, that's going to be primarily Islamic. So, all right. So, Western Europe again, their church, the Catholic Church, is based in Rome, so that's why they're called Roman Catholic. The head of that church is the Pope. And then you have the Eastern Europe, and that is based in Constantinople, and that religion would be Eastern Orthodox. So let's get into some vocab words. The first one we have is clergy. And a clergy just simply means the leaders of the church, including priests and bishops. So at the very top of that, you're going to have the Pope when talking about the Roman Catholic Church. Below him are the cardinals. Below that are the bishops. And then the most basic level of clergy would be the priests. And it's really important to note that the priests are the main contact for worshipers. So they're the most numerous. Those are the people who are running, the local village churches. They're the ones going and blessing people and doing services and stuff like that. So the priests are the main contact. So the Pope, like I said before, is the head of the Roman Catholic Church. The office he holds is called the papacy. And this position was first held by the successor of St. Peter. So St. Peter was one of Jesus's disciples according to Christianity, and he's considered the first pope. So anyone after that would almost be stepping into the role of St. Peter himself. And he was also very famous because he spread Christianity around the Middle East, North Africa, after Jesus died. So, the Pope, he is the head honcho of the Roman Catholic Church. He oversees it all, but of course, he doesn't do it alone. So, there's this group of people called the Papal Curia, and this group of people just helps the Pope with pretty much everything. So, they're the administrators of the Catholic Church. They're really the ones doing all the heavy lifting in the church. They're running it. So they do things like overseeing accounting, they're making laws, money. They're overseeing the hierarchy of the church. They're assisting the Pope with daily needs. And they're also confirming positions in the church. So if there's a new bishop or something like that, they're the ones who signs off on it. All right. So the Roman Catholic Church is important to learn religiously, but also they're really important socially to Western Europe. So the main unifier of people in Western Europe. So all classes in Western Europe were pretty much Roman Catholic, so that includes both peasants and lords. And it also gave people hope and that there would one day be an end to suffering. This was primarily true for the peasants who labored 54 plus hours a week and had to deal with tons of diseases, and their houses were made out of like straw, and it was just quite not a great life. So it gave a lot of hope. It also gave a sense of community. So churches were primarily the best structures in the villages because they weren't made out of straw. They're typically made out of like stone or wood or something a little bit more sturdier than what the houses would. So it really served as a physical social center, not only for like religious services, but also just for community gatherings as well. So, priests, they're the people who primarily administer sacraments. Sacraments are religious ceremonies. There's a bunch of different ones. The probably most famous would be baptism, which initiates someone officially into the church. Um, so, yeah, here's a lovely picture of a baby being baptized. There's also 6 other ones that you can see here, but we won't get into too much detail of that. So, the Roman Catholic Church also had power in laws and politics. I know we've talked a lot about that before, especially with like Charlemagne. So, everyone, peasants, kings, knights, lords, followed canon law. Now, what canon law was the laws that the church made, okay? And the really big one was about laws about marriage and divorce, especially for kings, of who they can and cannot marry and how someone gets divorced. Also, the church influences politics, but on the flip side, politics also influences the church. So there's this thing called lay investiture, and that is where kings and nobles appointed church bishops, right? So we talked about how, like, the Pope appointed kings. Now, kings and nobles are appointing church bishops. So here's my question for you. What may be the problem with lay investiture? Yeah, it's like kind of like a vicious cycle, right? So we have like the Pope, right? He assigns the kings. But the kings are the one who assign the bishops. But then the bishops are the ones that vote for the Pope. So it's like this weird circle of power struggle between the Pope and the kings of Western Europe. It wasn't finally outlawed, just FYI, by Pope Gregory the Seventh in 1075. All right, so let's talk about Pope Gelasius the First. So he was a pretty early pope. So he was the pope from about 492 to 496. And he's really significant because he wanted the king and the pope to have the same power level so they could try to stop with the power struggle. So he came up with this analogy called the 2 swords. One of the swords being religious, the other being political. They were not physical swords, by the way. They're just an analogy. So he thought that the Pope should bow to the king on political matters, as the king should bow to the Pope on religious matters. So, kind of like an early separation of church and state, although they still really influenced each other. So, religion and politics are so intertwined that we talked about the creation of the Holy Roman Empire, right, with Charlemagne. So like we talked about before, Holy Roman Empire, that's just kind of the new name to the Frankish kingdoms, like we've talked about and watched some videos about. Um, Pope Leo crowned Charlemagne the Holy Roman Emperor in 800, and that was again as a thank you gift from the Pope to Charlemagne for saving the city of Rome from invaders. All right, so a little bit more detail about the Holy Roman Empire. I know we talk about it a lot in this unit. I'm sure you're sick of it by now. But again, it lasted from 800 to 1806. It included parts of what is modern day Germany, France, and Austria. And by the 1500s, there was a huge loss of power in the Holy Roman Empire because the German tribes split up all the land into tiny little countries. And by 1806, no one wanted to claim what was now the powerless title. And also, oh my gosh, Napoleon killed the last Holy Roman Emperor. Although he didn't really the Holy Roman Emperor didn't really have power because, like, there was no land to rule anymore by 1806. But still, it's kind of crazy to think, right? Like 800 to 1806, like that wasn't that crazy long ago, the 1800s. Yeah. All right, so again, here is kind of a map of the Holy Roman Empire. It changes shape throughout history. So this is in the 6th century, so the 1500s. Again, you can see that it's mostly based in what is now modern day Germany. All right. So there are a lot of problems with the church and politics. One of the biggest no nos was that priests often married and had families. And this is a huge no no in the church rules. There was another really big problem, and that was called simony. And that's where bishops decided to sell off leadership positions in the church to the highest bidder. So if a bishop was really greedy and he's like, hey, you know what? I got a new bishop position opening up. If you hand me some money, I might make that position yours. Yeah, super corrupt. All right, now we also have to talk about punishment in the Roman Catholic Church. And the biggest punishment that would happen is something called excommunication. And that is when someone is kicked out of the church and all of its services. So they can't receive any more sacraments, they can't have a Christian burial. Pretty much their time as being a Christian is done. Offenses of this include priests who would break the seal of confession. So if like someone confessed to a priest, like, "Oh, I have sinned," and then they tell him the sin, and the priest goes out and gossips, like, "Guess what? Olaf did. He sinned," and spread all this gossip. Yeah, that would be a huge no-no in the Catholic Church. So the priest would be excommunicated. Um, Also, celebrating Mass when a person wasn't a priest. So a priest had to be the person doing the Mass sacraments. Anyone who did that would be excommunicated if they weren't a priest. Um, Also, physically attacking the Pope would get you kicked out of the church, which, I mean, that's probably like the one that makes the most sense, right? Don't attack the Pope. All right, so someone who is excommunicated is then called a heretic. So again, that is someone who believes in other ideas that go against the church, and like you probably can imagine, that results in excommunication. All right, so let's wrap up today. We talked a lot about the Roman Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. We talked about clergy, the papacy, papal curia, sacrament, canon law, lay investiture, Pope Gelasius I, Holy Roman Empire, simony, excommunication, and heretics. Next up, you're going to do two ed puzzles about the Crusades. So they're both labeled U7-L10. But I just broke up the videos into two. There's two different. One is a John Green video. The other one is about the Muslim perspective of the Crusades. So make sure you watch both of them. Each of them are worth 5 points, by the way. But here's my question for you. Have you ever heard of the Crusades? And if so, what do you know? If not, you can just say none. So just a little bit of background before you go off and watch those two videos for U7-L11. So the Crusades was a conflict between Christian and Muslim caliphates over the control of the Holy Land, specifically Jerusalem. So you can see here in the map, this is what's considered the like Holy Lands. This is a modern day map. So you can see here's Israel, here's Jordan, here's Lebanon, Syria, Egypt. So that is all in the Middle East. The Holy Lands will be specifically right here surrounding Jerusalem. Um, you'll also see like the West Banks here, the Gaza Strips right here. So here's my next question. Why are the Holy Lands so special to Jews, Muslims, and Christians? So they are super duper important to all three of those religions, okay? They all have crazy significance. So, for example, we have Dome of the Rock. That is this mosque that's right here. You can also see it in this picture. But the Dome of the Rock is really important to the Muslim community um, as a sacred site. Also, here is the Christian church that's located in Jerusalem. The name of it slips my mind right now, but it's believed to be where Jesus died on the cross. And then here is the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and that is very important to the Jewish community. You can see they're all really close to each other. As you can see here in the Western Wall, the mosque, the Dome of the Rock, is literally right behind it. Um, and then this church is in the vicinity too. You just can't see it in this picture. So they're all super closely combined, all three of these major world religions. And it's also today a big thing of conflict. I'm sure you've probably heard about it on the news and stuff, like the big conflict between Israel and on the Gaza Strip right now. Um, a lot of that conflict comes after World War II, which we'll talk about when we do World War II, about how it was split up. Israel was split up with Jerusalem having the West Bank, a Gaza Strip. Um, so just know that it was not split up very well. We'll go with that. All right. So next up, you're going to watch U7-L10 Crusades Part 1 and 2. Again, two different ed puzzles. Make sure you watch both of them. Uh, just a heads up, I'll be grading on what answers you get right or wrong. They're all multiple choice questions. So your grade for that will depend on if you get the questions right or wrong. Each of the videos are worth 5 points. Of course, if you have questions or comments, or you simply want to learn more, please email your teacher, or you can email me too. That's cool. Or you can stop by office hours. So it's all cool. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Bye.